Okay, so I mean, I ran this by my cats earlier, and they didn't laugh at all, and two of them fell asleep. So I mean, I was pretty upset about it, and then I was talking to my boyfriend. He's like, "Don't worry, you've got so much material; it's not even funny." And I was like, "Thanks a lot." So, I mean, I'm just telling you what I tell every guy before I date them, like. Just set the bar real low and you won't be disappointed. And I've also got my emotional support cue card because it's my first fucking time, so what do you expect? So I mean, sorry. I got a parking ticket recently. Anybody else getting tickets recently? Good, I'm glad because it's fucking annoying. But um, one second, sorry. Um, the weird part was that I didn't even notice it. I was at work and my coworker is just like, "Hey, is there a ticket on your windshield?" And I was like, "No, it can't be. I just drove here." So I go outside and sure enough, there's a fucking little slip of debt just stuck underneath my windshield wiper. And I take it out and I look closely to it and I'm like, what the fuck? It is 2 days old. Like how, and this is a true story, like how the fuck I did that. Are you recording? Sorry. Like how I did that, I have no idea. And I'm just imagining this poor thing. It's just strapped underneath my windshield wiper, clinging for dear life, like braving the rain and the wind and this cold, lonely nights. And then it's like, finally, this bitch is gonna rescue me. And I grab it and it just hears me mutter under my breath, "You little cocksucker, I'm definitely gonna fight you." Sorry. Just a second. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about tickets lately. It's kind of weird to me. Like when you think about tickets, usually it's like good things like concert tickets or movie tickets, lotto tickets. But no, not when it comes to the law. They're just like, okay, we're gonna like take this little bill and we're gonna disguise it as a ticket and we're gonna hand it out to them and they won't know anything. And it's like, this is a fucking bill identifying as a ticket. Like I am not that stupid. And like as long as they're gonna keep calling them that, I really think that they should actually just be rewards for my creative driving choices. Like that's just pretty ridiculous. But lottery tickets aren't always great, right? Like Carrie, for your birthday, did you get any lottery tickets? I hope not, because if someone gives you a lottery ticket, they're basically saying, "I hope you like getting fuck all for your birthday," because that's basically what I gave you. And it's just I really don't understand it. And like the only time that could really be helpful is if you happen to have like psychic abilities and then you just know the numbers, right? And you're fucking rich, right? You're just set because every psychic is a millionaire, right? Yeah, no, it's so true. But psychic abilities kind of got me thinking, like, if there's such a thing as psychic abilities, is there such a thing as psychic disabilities? And and I got to be careful because I work in this field. But like your spirit, you're going in for a reading. Your spirit guide is just like totally nonverbal, just standing there, and you're just like not getting shit from them, right? That's pretty useless in this scenario, right? Like, God bless them, but, and then, or they're starting to speak in sign language, and the psychic just throws her hands up and throws the table over. It's like, I don't fucking know ASL. Like, it's really, really stupid. Or like for me, like, I'm the girl that Joel used to date, and I've got ADHD, and I'm just gonna be like, okay, oh my God, it's very important. You've got to tell Johnny that he's gonna die if he goes. Oh my God, no, tell him he's gotta get that puppy. He's been thinking about adopting a puppy. He needs to get it. It's gonna be life-changing for him. But I mean, ultimately, like, sometimes disabilities can be a little bit more depressing and they just involve like hearing things that aren't there, seeing things that aren't there, you know, like a psychic. Personally, I think the whole gig is pretty much bullshit, like in the same way that, you know, when a hooker tells you you're handsome, that kind of thing. It's all just for the money. But then, so what happened to me, true story, is there was a coworker of mine and she invited me to what she called a psychic party. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I politely turned her down. And then like the good friend I am, I made fun of her about it behind her back and now here. But it's like, I just didn't quite understand why I would spend my money just trying to find out something that might be in my future. And I can just take that same money, go to Taco Bell and know what the fuck has happened to me tonight. Like I know for sure, right? But I mean, Psychic Party just really got my imagination flowing because I'm like, like what could that be? You walk up to this house with this just like mysteriously illuminated door and you're greeted before you even like have to knock because psychics obviously. And you walk in and there's the spirit guides who show you the alcoholic options for the evening. You see there are magic 8 balls everywhere, so of course you gotta take a hit, right, trying to loosen up. But there's also crystal, but you're staying away from the hard stuff. You just and you start like, you're trying to relate. There's just like really, really handsome ghosts, and you're flirting with some ghost, and you're like, oh, I'm supernatural too, and you're just trying to work your way in there, hoping he'll give you a hand reading or a palm reading. Oh, sorry, a palm reading with his dick. Just wrote that one. Sorry, I can't believe you still laugh. Thank you. All right. And then it's just great practice for getting ghosted, obviously, because you already know what's happening, right? So, I mean, the weekend of the party passed, and I was eager to know what happened. So I go up to her, and I'm like, hey, what happened, right? I need to know. And she just kind of sighed, and she's a little defeated, and she's like, oh, it got canceled. Like, the girl was actually sick. And without missing a beat, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, what a shit psychic. She couldn't have told you that from the start. And she laughed, and I laughed, and she never talked to me again. It was beautiful. So fast forward to my late 20s, I go through a terrible breakup, just awful. I mean, and they're all awful with me because, I mean, first of all, you're losing this, but also I break up really, really bad. I break up about as well as, you know, those like supposedly pre-cut English muffins, you're trying to cut them with your hand, and it's just an absolute fucking mess, right? So I'm thinking to myself, like, what is going to make me feel better? Like, what can I do to make myself feel better about this? So I'm like, you know what? I've got it. I am going to book a psychic reading with some unsuspecting woman, this poor woman. I'm going to just go and try to fuck with her, give her nothing to work with, and that is definitely going to make me feel better, right? So, I mean, it did. And I definitely did it. And I actually came across a recording of this recently, and it was pretty interesting, I think. I hope you guys think so, too. So the first thing that she starts off with is she tells me that I'm going to be going on a trip somewhere with palm trees in November. And I was like, okay, genius, like really, really good insight there. You're like, oh, that's so not generic. Like, who would want to go somewhere warm when it's like starting to get cold out, right? And she just like, you could hear my eyes rolling in the recording. And she's like, Rachel, I'm just telling you what I see, like what could happen. I'm just, it is what it is. And she already seems defeated, and I'm like already pleased, right? And so then she tells me, sorry, one second. Okay, then she goes on to tell me that she just sees me dragging this massive bag of debt, just lugging it around, and that I was 28 when this happened, and she says that she also sees that debt going away in 2 years. And then she follows up with the fact that she sees me getting married by 30. So in my head, I get a little bit of hope, and I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, I'm going to marry a rich guy, right? And then I'm like, no, like the part of me that needs her to be wrong is so much more determined. So I am like, man, like the amount of proposals I have turned down, just, I can't even keep track. There's just so many like piles of unwed men like behind me. It's just like Mount Kiliman's ego right back there. And so, yeah, none of that. And then, so it's a little bit sadder, but like my grandfather was dying, and I went to the hospital and to visit him, and it was near the end, and he pulls me close and he goes, Rachel, and I don't know, he didn't really smoke, but I don't know why he sounds like that, but, and he's like, Rachel, I have one last wish. I left a safe full of $1 million in my basement, and I want you to have it, and I wrote the code on this napkin. And I was touched, and I went over to him, and I was like, you fucking idiot, don't you know that I have a psychic to prove wrong? Like, how many times have I told you this? I fucking ripped that shit up and left as he flatlined, like, fuck that guy. So, I mean, I'm proud to say, against all odds, I made it to 35, no ring on my finger, and I am still drowning in debt. But, so then the psychic said something that I really, like, it's kind of weird. She's like, oh, you have bad taste in men. And I was like, I did not need to pay someone to know that. Like, 100% I knew that, right? So she says that she sees a spirit guide, and they are basically illustrating this metaphor of me just fishing for men, you know, as one does, and just fishing, and I pull up a fish, and it's got 3 eyes, and I don't throw it back in, and I know that. And she's like, the spirit guide thinks that I should, and I disagree, because like the 3-eyed men, I'm kind of fond of them, honestly. Like that third eye has so much spiritual significance, right? Like 3-eyed like men, like fish men, they are like so in tune with their emotions. And I think that's super important. And then they're also in tune with mine. So like they just see me with this like giant glowing mood ring around me. And I'm like, that is super helpful when you're dating me. And that would be like ideal, right? And ladies, like that third eye there, they're definitely going to be able to find the clit. So don't worry about that. But then eventually they just start kind of talking too much about conspiracy theories and stuff. So then you just gotta like toss them back to plentyofthreeeyedfish.com, right? And then like, I don't know, like I get annoyed because you always hear people say, oh, there's plenty of fish in the sea. Like, what fucking sea? Like, I live in Welland. Like, we have the beautiful Welland Canal. I don't know what you expect to find in there. In my experience, it's been mostly catfish, like literal catfish, and just like smallmouth bass. And they're like, they're just using their fucking little small mouths, doing their very best to try to make you come. It's like fucked. I don't get it, right? And then the rest of the fish, fucking gay. So like, what are you gonna do, right? So then this lady just starts laughing a lot, like it's really weird, and I'm like, okay, and she's like, sorry, your spirit guides are just hilarious, and I'm like, bitch, are you paying me for this? Because I think I'm entertaining you. And she says, and this is true, and I don't know how I didn't remember this before, but she's like, there is a spirit guide just pushing this giant jar of pickles, seriously, like just pushing it, blank face, like she doesn't understand it, and I'm like, no shit, like who would, right? And then I think to myself, I'm like, oh my God, it's gotta be like one of my pun-loving relatives who's like been watching over me my entire life, because I used to be really religious. I was saving myself for marriage for a really long time, and I missed so much dick for white Jesus, like so much dick, because I mean he doesn't want you getting laid, even though he got nailed in the end. So like I don't really get it, fucking hypocrite. So I mean, okay, so I know that this jar is like definitely a jar of Dick's pickles, like so. I'm like, that's interesting, but now I know I've got to like spend my whole life dodging dick, right? So that's like, oh, okay, interesting. So then, speaking of dodging dick, she mentions, she just drops on me that she definitely sees kids in my future, and I'm like, okay, because like I've always been on the fence about having kids. Like, wanting kids to me is like wanting to have a house. Like, I can go to a dedicated bank for either to apply to get one. Or, you know, like a private lender, right? But really the best I can do is a fixer-upper. Like, it's going to turn out like shit because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, right? And so it's like, I don't think anyone's going to ever let me keep one anyways. And I mean, realistically, I've got to basically be a psychic and win the lottery to afford it anyway. So like, it's not happening, right? So I'm pretty sure I'm going to dodge that one, right? So I'm nearing the end of the reading, and she goes, she said that there's something about my dead grandma, thinking that like I am like really bad at driving. She's really worried about my driving. And I'm just like, I'm not that bad. Like, mind your business, grandma. Like, what the fuck, right? So whatever. And then the last thing she leaves me with is she's talking about how like she sees that I have like some psychic abilities and like I should be able to hone them or whatever, and I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, I wish, because I would love to scam people too. But like, but in the end, I'm like, okay, whatever. I took it and I left, and I'm on my way home, and I'm just thinking about how like, how happy I am that like, I know that she's wrong about everything, and I'm like, there's no way my life is gonna turn out good just because this bitch says so. Like, no fucking way, right? And then I'm just kind of daydreaming, and then bam, I fucking, literally, this is seriously true, I rear-end the car in front of me, and I am just shocked. I'm shaking uncontrollably, and I am checking myself over, and I'm like, oh my God, right? And I crawl out of my car, and I'm like, oh my God, like, and the lady comes out of her car that I'd hit, and she's like, are you okay? And all I do is I just yell, holy fucking shit, a psychic just told me that my dead grandma thinks I'm a shit driver. And she is like, psychics are bullshit, give me your information, you sound like a crazy bitch. And I'm just like, I don't even know what happened after that. I'm in a daze, and I'm like, well, I mean, for real, why didn't that psychic just fucking tell me to avoid this goddamn accident? But at the same time, I'm like, if she was kind of right about that, like, what else is she right about? So I go home, and I'm exhausted, so I change, and I put my PJs on, and I notice something on my shirt, so I go up to it, and pick it up, and I look closer. I'm looking at the tag. You guys, it fucking turns out that I have been a medium this entire time. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you for coming out.